event, which is going to be in English. However, you have the opportunity to choose to have simultaneous translation. Então, esse webinar vai ser em inglês e você tem a opção de traduzir esse webinar simultaneamente para o português. There is a button right in the bottom of this screen that next to the QA where you can select the simultaneous translation for Portuguese or English. Also, this event is going to be recorded and shared on our social media, YouTube channel, website, and other media outlets. Leslie, your microphone is going to be placed on mute, and we ask that you place your questions in the QA session. All right? Now let me take you to what the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce is all about. This is an organization that is a nonprofit organization with the mission to foster business relationships between Brazil and the Southeast of the United States. We work around 3 pillars. One is information, which is what we are doing here today. We bring you events that has to do with opportunities for doing business in Brazil and in the Southeast United States. The second pillar is our connection. We work with partners like the ones here represented, and they build these great connections that we have, not only in the site, but also in the government relation as well. And the third pillar is support. And support is what we refer our subject matter experts to provide support to companies wanting to enter the US market or US companies wanting to enter the Brazilian market. So I need to ask you, please join the organization. Since it is a membership organization, we need members to support our events so we can bring more information to you, expand our connections, and have the right person to support you when you wanted to expand your business. To learn more about the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce, please visit our website, which is bacc-se.org, or you can contact me directly. We are delighted that you could join us this morning to learn why technology giants like Microsoft, Airbnb, and Google have chosen Atlanta as their innovation hub. Thanks to our partners like the State of Georgia Department of Economic Development, the City of Atlanta Office of International Affairs, Metro Atlanta Chamber, Consulate of Brazil in Atlanta, Georgia State University Cyber, and Drummond Advisors, we thank you very much for your support and contribution. And certainly our special guests here today, our great speakers. Without further ado, let's welcome this great panel made of subject matter experts in the area of innovation in startup. They are so knowledgeable and they can help your company navigate the Georgia innovation ecosystem. I would like to welcome you. I would like to ask you to enjoy this opportunity, and I will just ask Maria Luisa to take the floor. It's all yours now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia, and good morning, everyone, again. And thanks, Lucia, actually, our founder and president of the BACC Southeast, who created this initiative, right? I want also to thank all of you that are joining us today. So thank you very much for being here. And thanks to our panelists that are going to show you some opportunities that are available for you, Brazilian companies, to enter this innovation ecosystems that we have here in Georgia. Just to give you an idea, a recent report from Start Genome states that the global startup economy remains relevant, creating almost $3 trillion in value. So just to give you a reference, right, 3 trillions, what What does it mean? So we are talking almost as the gross domestic product nominal from Germany. Okay, they are a little bit over the 3 trillion. So it's amazing, right? So we're going to talk about opportunities for Brazilian companies in one of the top 30 global ecosystems in the world here in Atlanta, but also Georgia altogether. So we have professionals, as Lucia said, with the expertise, the knowledge to provide the experience and also the support for you in the journey to, get a footprint here in United States. Preferably, we want you here in Georgia. So we have Mariana Desani. She's a trade specialist based in Sao Paulo, supporting initiatives from Sao Paulo to Georgia. We have Pedro Drummond, is a partner of Drummond Advisors and mentor at the Founder Institute. We have Glenn Whitley, is the director of the Center of Innovation for Information Technology. He's going to share also about the innovations on, what we have been doing. Chris, also from the Georgia Center of Innovation for a very new, recently segment, AgriTech, although the partnership with Brazil in agricultural agribusiness had been a long time ago. We have Grant Winscott is going to talk as Vice President of the Ecosystems Innovation. So it's going to share also what we are doing here in Georgia. And we have a real case, because I think it's also important for you guys, not only to hear what we have to offer, but also to hear from someone who used some of those resources through Brazilian case, a successful case, that are going to share their experience here. So we have Rafael, is the CEO of Zoox Smart Data. So since we are talking about this partnership, we are talking about support, I want to start with a question for Mariana. So we heard about this, that the state of Georgia has like a one-stop shop, for companies who are looking to get their footprint here. Can you talk more about this? Can you share more information?
Yes. Thank you very much, Lucia and Maria Luisa. I think I'm going to share a little bit more of information than just this one-stop point here for Brazilian companies. So I'd like to thank you for taking an interest in Georgia and being here with us to learn a little more about our state. I'd also like to thank the Brazilian American Chamber for organizing this event, the Brazilian General Consulate in Atlanta, and Drummond Advisors for your support, always supporting our activities, and all our panelists today. The state of Georgia has representation in Brazil since 1995, which makes us 25 years here in Brazil. We celebrated this last year. The state is one of the main investment destinations for Brazilian companies, with more than 40 facilities in the most diverse sectors. We have chemical, technology, machinery, environment, and many others. These companies make Brazil the 6th largest employer in the state, with employing almost 12,000 people. Our office is in Sao Paulo, and we assist Brazilian companies that are interested in opening their operations in the state with information, research, site visits when we can, analysis of possible incentives and institutional connections. We also assist Georgia companies with interest in selling their products to Brazil, so the commercial side, as well as the other 11 Georgia international offices around the world. Georgia is the #1 state for business in the United States due to many factors. We have a very well-developed industry and very varied industry, innovation and technology, which we are going to talk about today, low cost to do business and to live here, many taxes, incentives, very renowned infrastructure, support from the state and local governments, and a great system of education. We have more than 80 colleges and universities, some of the best in the United States and the world, in important areas such as technology and engineering. Our infrastructure is also very comprehensive. In a 2-hour flight, you have access to 80% of the American market, in addition to intermodal hubs with the busiest airport in the world in Atlanta, 2 ports, Savannah and Brunswick, highways and railroads. Innovation, which we are going to talk today, is very strong in the state. As Lucia said, and Maria Luisa, we have 40 corporate innovation centers, more than 40 corporate innovation centers, in addition to our centers of innovation in technology, energy, manufacturing, aerospace, and logistics, which we are very lucky to have 2 of our directors here today. Another interesting advantage is the state's tax incentives, which are quite comprehensive too. There are incentives for job creation, well-paid jobs, port handling, which is very important for us today, research and development, and many others. Of course, each has their own requirements, but the department is here to help you know which ones you can apply to. Technology, as we are going to talk today, is a very important sector in Georgia. We have health IT, cybersecurity, fintech, and data centers. It's a highly interconnected system, which is very good. You know one person, you know everyone, with universities, innovation centers, and companies. As Maria Luisa said, the department is your one point of contact in the state. We connect you to utilities, local authorities, service providers to make your arrival in Georgia easier. So our office in Brazil is here to help you start your operation in the state. Thank you very much, and I'll be here for the Q&A. Thank you, Maria Luisa.
Thank you very much, Mariana. And I think you shared a lot of information. So if anyone didn't get the chance to get everything, don't worry. She will share more materials about those, let's say, experience, but also about those opportunities. And I think it's awesome that we have all this structure. And of course, we want to promote Georgia. This is our goal, right? I think it's like the song says, right? We love Georgia. So, but I imagine there's a lot of, I would say, homework that a lot of times we see that companies need to put it before launching or before launching their experience, their venture to come here in Georgia. And I think there's something you can do in parallel, right? At the same time, we were talking with Georgia Department of Commerce and having the support, but also you have, you know, let's say doing your homework at how your housekeeping to how to grow cross borders, right? So I want to call Pedro Drummond from Drummond Advisors, and has a long experience in this cross borders transactions and supporting the companies in this process from Brazil entering the United States. And I understand in the several elements, like a broad a place to support those companies. So Pedro, considering your experience, which are the critical elements you think that any Brazilian companies need to take into account, you know, when they're going to enter here in the United States?
Thanks, Maria Luisa. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much again for the invite. It's always an honor and a pleasure to talk with these great panelists here. I know many, and I've talked many times with you guys. And before I get to that point, Maria Luisa, let me emphasize how important this support from Georgia State and the counties within the state to the companies, the Brazilian companies expanding to the US. I could see firsthand the Georgia State helping companies, and it's not only the state, counties do help. I've seen companies receiving assistance from Georgia Tech, very active in helping people to innovate in the state. This is very important. It's a true support, and I see other states doing the same. They do a very good job, but no question that Georgia was probably one of the best in doing this work for the Brazilian companies expanding. So getting to your point, homework, you said, well, there are several tasks that the company needs to consider. I outlined at least 3 or 4 most important. They are not the only ones, but I would say they are the most important. when you're expanding from Brazil to the US. First point of attention, taxation, okay? Guys, taxation in the US is very different than in Brazil. Operating in the US is not as complex as it is in Brazil from a tax standpoint, but it is complex, okay? So you need to consider, remember, in the US, you have the states taxing on some states, they do tax on income level. So you need to consider, you need to do a tax planning to check what will happen to your operation in the US. Another factor that's important, how you structure your operation in the US may and most likely will impact your Brazilian operation from a tax perspective. So doing an international tax planning before incorporating is crucial, okay? And someone who can see the two jurisdictions, you check your Brazilian operation, your US operation, how those two interact and what the tax impacts will be. So taxation, I would say, is the first topic you'll be checking, which is before you incorporate. A second element that I think it's very important, especially on what we do here, I'm sharing more of our experience, it's immigration, okay? Most likely that you will expand by transferring one executive of your Brazilian company to the US company. Of course, you can hire locally and you will hire local employees, but most likely the very first employee will be someone coming from the Brazilian entity to the US. So take that topic in advance, okay? Check all the immigration steps, plan ahead. Immigration is a sensitive topic. It's time consuming. It will take time before you get a work visa. So the sooner you start working on that, the better. Those are the main topics that I would call the attention in terms of the legal and tax aspects. Speaking more on a strategic point of view, we assist hundreds of companies expanding to the US, so we can see people and companies that do well and people and companies that don't do so well. So what I see the most successful companies doing, they first adapt their product and check the market, okay? Don't fall into one mistake, don't make one mistake to think that just because you are successful in the US, if you are successful in Brazil, just by replicating what you do, you will be successful in the US. That's not the case. That's a good start, but that's not all, okay? So you will need to adapt either your product or your business model to fit the market standard in the US, okay? The US market is very competitive. If you do have a good product, you will most likely have a good business. But again, you need to do your homework, okay? You will need to adapt your product and find your market, okay? Check what type of customer and companies and suppliers you need to obtain, customers that you reach out. Think ahead. It's a great market to be in. Innovation in the US, it happens because the talent's out there. There's plenty of sourcing and funding. Okay, if you're looking for funding in the US, you will be able to get for innovation as well. But again, do your homework, okay? Maria Luisa, I think those are the four, I mentioned four: market, adapting your product, and from a legal and tax perspective, most here on our experience, immigration and tax. Again, those are the most important, guys. There are several other tasks, but this is what I see as the most crucial points to have the attention for, okay?
Thank you, Pedro. And yes, I agree. Plan ahead, especially on immigrations and all these elements. It takes time, and sometimes it's frustrating. So I face this as a J1 and then an F1. So I imagine work visa, it's another completely reality. But let's continue talking about the innovations. And Georgia has one of the largest and most diverse technology industries in the nations, right? So I will call Glenn to talk, more about this, the regions and strengths, and how these strong innovation ecosystems can benefit Brazilian companies to establish here in Georgia.
Great. Thank you very much, Maria Luisa. Very pleased to be here. Thanks to all the participants for joining in and the panelists and the people that put this together. I'm Glenn Whitley. I'm the director of the Center of Innovation for Information Technology. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the ecosystem for innovation in technology in Georgia. You've already heard, sort of the basics of the marketing of how you can enter the U.S. market via Georgia. And I think we're as good as anybody at doing that. Number one state for business. So a lot of companies come here, both internationally and domestically. But once you've made that decision and you happen to be a technology company, what are the things that Georgia does that can help you grow and succeed while you're here? Well, that's the role of the Center of Innovation and what we do. And Chris will talk about it from his perspective as well. But we're here to advance economic development. We are part of the economic development team for the state of Georgia. And what we want to do is advance that economic development through innovation. So what does that mean? Ultimately, we're here to help any company that's doing business in Georgia, whether they come from Brazil or internal or elsewhere. And for companies that are looking at entering the market, and as Pedro had alluded to, look at your product. Sometimes you may need to adapt your product. Well, that can be a role for the Center of Innovation. We can help you connect to local resources and research and ideas on what you might need to do once you're here. You can do that from your home location as well. But if you are really looking at international markets, it sometimes helps tremendously if you can tap into those resources in the markets that you're entering, like Georgia. And that's what we can do. We can connect you to our academic resources. There may be other organizations and companies that help you that take a lot of time to connect those dots, and we're here to speed that process up in terms of finding access to the information. So really, once you land, you've set up, and now you need some support to innovate and grow that product or whatever it is you're trying to do in Georgia, we can do that for you. And in technology itself, one of the I think key things, it's part of identifying your market and doing your homework up front. But let me just tell you a little bit about Georgia and information technology. We're one of the leading centers for technology in the US. We're great in the enterprise markets. We have tremendous companies here. A number of Fortune 5 companies here are either located here, have grown up here, or moved here because of the resources that we have. I think in terms of the gross domestic product for the state of Georgia, technology accounts for over $120 billion worth of GDP. So it's a huge part of our economy and incredibly important to continuing to grow our state. We have over 20,000 registered technology businesses in the state of Georgia. We're ranked as the 12th leading state for technology in the country, making us in the upper tier of the US for companies interested in the IT business. One of the things in a recent study, Georgia ranked 9th in terms of innovation. And here we are talking about it. Well, we're one of the leading states for innovation because of the resources and ecosystem that we have. Some of the areas that were mentioned earlier that I focus in on, I work with any IT company, but we're taking a look specifically at health IT, cybersecurity, fintech, and digital media. These are all growing important sectors to Georgia, but any other area of digital technology that your company may fall, we can help you. These are areas we're proactive in, but we're reactive in any area of technology. It can even be biotech. So if you're looking to do business here in medical device, we can help you find those kinds of resources here. Couple of companies, for example, that have come to Georgia that are in the IT area that I'd like to mention. I know there's one that's going to speak here, but in 2015, Stefanini opened or expanded an office here. They've been here, so they looked at Georgia and saw it as a growth market and expanded their footprint here in the IT services industry. So companies are doing it from Brazil already. So many of you thinking about it, you have other companies that you can take a look at and refer to. Another organization in the fintech area, Cielo, through their Merchant e-Solutions, expanded here in 2016. And why did they do that? I'm guessing they did it because Georgia is the leading area for fintech card processing in the country, if not the world. over 70% of all card transactions in the United States pass through Georgia. So infrastructure is incredibly important. So if you're in that business, Georgia has the best infrastructure in the country. And again, in terms of IT, we have a number of IT companies here in a variety of sectors. We also, as mentioned earlier by Maria, innovation is a key part of our growth system. In the past, companies maybe traditionally held R&D within their walls, but we have seen a trend over the past 10 years or so of companies looking to move some R&D and innovation outside of their corporate footprint. And in the office, in the building that we sit in, or I sit in at least, in as Center of Innovation, there's over 30 corporate innovation hubs where companies like Home Depot, Delta, and a variety of others have opened up R&D innovation hubs, partly to be right next door to Georgia Tech, which is one of the top technology universities in the world, right here in Georgia. So between the resources that we have from our academic community, from the companies that we already have here, and the resources that are on display here with these partners and others, we're able to help you navigate that technology innovation ecosystem. Most importantly, I think Georgia has some of the best labor markets in the country, again, because of organizations like Georgia Tech and the variety of academic institutions we have. We have some of the best engineers and developers and programmers in the country, and they're, from a cost of doing business standpoint, one of the best values in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Glenn. I think this is awesome. So I would just go straight ahead to Chris, because I think also you can complement a lot of the perspectives from the IT to the ag tech now, right?
Yeah, thank you, Maria. Thank you for having me today. And it's good to see a lot of folks on the webinar. I have a very small connection to Brazil. I was fortunate to host a family who was visiting professors at the University of Georgia. So they lived with me for a summer, and then the next summer I got to go visit with them in Sao Paulo State and Paraná State. So I got to see a lot of agriculture also while I was in Brazil. Agriculture as a whole is the largest industry in Georgia, and it's been that way since the founding of the state. And each year, agriculture contributes about 70 to 80 billion dollars. The farm level, or the value of goods produced at the farm level, which is kind of the base level of agriculture, is roughly 12 to 13 billion dollars. And the difference in the farm level and the total contribution is agribusiness, which is where the ag technology sector falls. So the agribusiness sector is about $60 billion. And that's where most of the jobs and most of the growth comes from, is in the agribusiness level. The farm level is relatively steady from year to year. And Georgia's home to lots of agricultural companies in the agribusiness sector. Some of the very large ones that everyone knows is, for instance, AGCO. AGCO is a multinational equipment company. Their North American headquarters are in Duluth, Georgia, and they make equipment that is known around the world. We're also home to a lot of small agribusinesses, the family-owned businesses. And we've had a lot of success with Brazilian ag companies coming to Georgia. Two come to mind, two that I'm familiar with. One is Colombo. Colombo North America is their subsidiary here of the Colombo Group. They make peanut harvesting equipment. And prior to their introduction into the US, there was only two companies that made peanut harvesting equipment. And Colombo came in with a completely new design, a different type of harvester that was not seen here before. And it was a true innovative market disruptor. And they're slowly gaining more and more market share. They actually manufacture most of the parts in Brazil still, and they send them into Georgia through the port, and they assemble them in South Georgia, close to where all the farming is. Another company in just the last couple of years that has come to Georgia is Forquímica. They make crop input products, fertilizer, pest protection type products. They recently opened a distribution center in South Georgia, also not too far from where Colombo's operation is. And they actually hired about 80 local folks at that distribution facility. So as Pedro mentioned earlier, the top folks at Forquímica came from Brazil, but they ended up hiring a lot of local folks. So as Glenn mentioned, our main goal at the Centers of Innovation are to help these companies clear the path for innovation, to help them expand, to help them overcome any kind of problem they may be having. It could be something very small that we come in and help maybe connect them to another business that has already solved the problem, or connect them with our university researchers. And that's something we're very proud of in Georgia, is that we have a lot of university public research in agriculture. So we have several universities that focus on it. We have universities like Georgia Tech that people may not think about as being agriculture related, but they do a lot of engineering around agriculture and food processing. So those are resources that we help connect companies to. Again, my focus mainly is in the ag technology sector. So previously with the Centers of Innovation, we focused on agribusiness, but now we're focusing strictly in the ag technology, as we see that as a rapidly growing area. And within our group, I work actually a lot with Glenn, because Glenn focuses on IT, and a lot of the new technologies we see coming in agriculture are, wireless sensors, broadband related technologies. We also have specialists that work in manufacturing. We have specialists that work in aerospace, and all of that really overlaps in the ag technology area. We're seeing more and more farmers and ag companies deploy drones for crop monitoring, for taking imaging, doing lots of new innovative things, collecting data and providing that data back to farmers, and farmers themselves are using these type products. So again, the main reason, kind of what Glenn mentioned, the reason we feel like we're successful in these strategic areas, and my area being agriculture, is that we have the ecosystem here that's been built over many years to make companies successful. And that ecosystem is public investment. So we have public universities, folks like us that work at the state level. We have private investment. So companies see that there are, resources available. The companies locate here. For instance, AGCO, that's, their North American headquarters are here. And when you combine all that together, the public investment, the private investment, it makes Georgia just a really unique place for ag and ag technology. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot that we deal with on a daily basis, and we're really looking forward to the future. And I'll stop there, and we'll have some Q&A at the end.
So let's continue talking about the ecosystems, because I think everything that you guys are mentioning is possible because of the favorable ecosystem and for innovation that we have here. So let me call Grant, because I understand that you are the man supporting this ecosystems expansions in Georgia.
Good morning. Thanks, Maria. Apologies, my voice is a little hoarse from this scene last night. We had our big football team, Atlanta United, played its in one of its first home matches in it was CONCACAF, but in over a year. So this is my radio voice, not my television voice. So sorry. But yeah, I think that the fascinating thing about Georgia, and Glenn and Chris and Mariana really touched on it, but we're not home to just one industry. We're not relying upon kind of one sector of the economy to really drive GDP for us. We have so many different ecosystems that are really driving so much growth. Glenn and Chris and Mariana talked about the technology ecosystem, our ag ecosystem, all these different pieces, travel and tourism, major parts that really drive growth for us. And so I lead a group at the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce that really focuses on those ecosystems. And then specifically, I want to talk to you this morning about FinTech. And I think Glenn mentioned a lot of the history of technology and the growth in Metro Atlanta and in Georgia. But in FinTech, we go back to the 1800s, right at the end of the century, 1899. Equifax was founded in Atlanta, and that was, first it was Retail Credit Company, but that was really our first big play outside of the traditional banking industry, which was, growing, of course, being kind of the center of the Southeast. But then in the early 1900s, the U.S. divided the country into different Federal Reserve zones, and for whatever reason, the Atlanta Fed became really adept at processing, checks. And so we became really the repository for check processing, and that continues, today. And yes, there are still companies that make and print checks and process them. Several of them are headquartered here. I know the rest of the world has moved on from paper checks, but we still have a lot of that here in the U.S. And so, fast forward really to the late 60s, and the Fed and Georgia Tech started looking at accelerating what would become electronic payments. They created a study, and then a few years later developed ACH, the Automated Clearinghouse. And so, that first the hint of electronic payments started in Atlanta. That has catapulted us, over the next 40 years, to the point where today, the New York Stock Exchange is owned and controlled out of Atlanta. ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, that owns the New York Stock Exchange, based in Atlanta. So we control and own the New York Stock Exchange. We control 70% of the payments in the U.S. Credit card, debit card, gift cards, all those swipes, all that come through a Georgia company. Major companies that are either globally headquartered here or have significant presence. It's everything from NCR, Global Payments, Equifax, LexisNexis, TSYS. Oh gosh, Ingenico, Fiserv, Elavon, FIS, you name it. All those big global brands are here. But, and I think, Marianne and Glenn really touched on the education ecosystem. So with over 70 colleges and universities just in Metro Atlanta alone, I think, Glenn, what do we have, around 300,000 or so students that feed from those schools and universities. That's helped create a really robust accelerator and incubator program, all these support services that are designed to really grow the market. So, we've got unicorns and really fast moving startups like, Cabbage and Greenlight Financial, BitPay. I mean, a lot of things that you read in the news, they're here in part because they have access to that talent, sometimes that are spinning out from some of these major brands, other times that are coming out from the university system and the startup ecosystem. So, it's important when you think about any ecosystem, any part of your market, that you really are able to touch all of the things that are needed for growth. So, so workforce development, affordable living, we're home to the world's busiest airport, having that accessibility to, oh gosh, Glenn, what is it? I think we like to say 80% of the U.S. population is within a 2-hour nonstop flight from Atlanta. That's huge if you're bringing a company and you need to reach your customer base. So for fintech, it's really helped us rethink how we approach financial services. And so for us, fintech is a broad definition. It's not just the disruptors that are looking to change payments and banking, but we're also one of the largest insurance and reinsurance markets. We invented and really controlled the prepaid market. InComm created the world's first prepaid card and helped launch iTunes and the iTunes payment platform. We were early adopters in cyber and crypto, and particularly where those two really intersect. World's first Bitcoin ATM. Back-end technology was created here, launched in Europe, and then we became the first locations for the ATMs. And with BitPay and others, that intersection of security and payments and alternative forms of currency has really helped us look at how do we engage markets like Brazil, how do we engage markets like parts of Europe, and looking at it was either Marianne or Glenn mentioned some of the companies that have expanded from Brazil in the payment space that are here. We've been working with Cielo and others as they look to grow their U.S. presence. So having a relationship with the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce of the Southeast and with the Georgia Department of Economic Development, with all the resources, if you are looking, to grow your company in general, you have all this free help. We're private sector, Glenn and Chris and Mariana are government and public-private partnerships. You've got all this incredible free help, between the Brazilian Chamber and us on the private side. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can help, how we can, help you explore the market, not just in fintech, but in all of these. And so I'll leave you with two kind of bits of info, and I'll drop these in the chat as well. FinTech Atlanta is an organization that we created, business organization, to help companies explore opening up and learning more about the market. So it's fintechatlanta.org, and I'll drop that website in. And then also, I did that to the panelists. I'll do it to the attendees as well here in a sec. FinTech South, major FinTech conference, largest in the Southeast US, one of the largest in the country, will happen June 22nd to the 24th. It's virtual this year. Love to see a great Brazilian delegation and companies interested in coming. We'll make sure we can get you some free tickets to your members, Maria Luisa, so that you have a way to help engage those as they're coming here. So appreciate all the partnerships that we've had throughout the years, and how important Brazil is as a trading partner and as a tourism partner, and just an overall great market for us to continue to grow. So thanks for having me this morning.
Thanks very much, Brad. And I think it matches very well, right? We have a very strong also fintech in Brazil. We have ag tech in Brazil. We have IT in Brazil. And I cannot forget to mention, apart from all these organizations that we have here helping you today, guys, of course, we have also the support on the Brazilian General Consulate of Brazil in Atlanta, where the trade and promotion sectors, can support also Brazilian firms in your inquiries. So I'm sure Antonio will or can share also their contacts, because I think you have all these resources available for you. And so let's talk about those, a real example. So it's like, we think because it's free is not good. So this is not true. Here, I think we have a very high quality support and available to you to be explored, let's say. And Rafael can bring, I think, this experience, from establishing here in Atlanta in 2019, if I'm not wrong, right?
18, in the end of 18.
18, yes.
In the end of 18, yes.
So tell us a little bit about this story and about, I think all this movement and bringing the innovation together with the ecosystems and also the challenges, right, that comes with it.
Yeah, I will. First of all, thank you guys for inviting me to talk a little bit about our history here in Atlanta. Yes, just a little bit about the concept of Zoox. We started the company in 2010 in Rio, in Brazil. I'm Carioca and Flamenguista. I don't know if the translate will do that. And we started a company in 2010, and we were like Wi-Fi management platform system for hotels down in Brazil. And when was 2016, we pivot our company and we start to be a big data company down there. And when we start growing fast in Brazil on the big data sector, I'm start to, of course, to looking for growth abroad, for other countries. And I met Pedro Drummond in Rio once, and he started to talk about the opportunity here in Brazil. And he were a very good friend. He is a very good friend, and he's like a one-stop shop solution for us over here. Everything that we need about legal stuffs, we call Pedro, and he take care of about everything. And when was 2018, we decided over there that we will open an office here in Atlanta, here in the US. And of course, obviously for the Brazilian, it's normal we move for a place as Silicon Valley or New York or Miami or something like this. It's not normal for us over there thinking about Atlanta, specifically for tech companies. And when I came here from Atlanta for the first time, and I started to look at the environment, it is amazing, because here you have all the support that you needed to open your company. And I have been in Georgia Tech for the first time, and we were invited to be a part of ATDC. and it was a pleasure. And before we decide to move to Atlanta, one of the most important thing is the family. Because when you decide to go into some place, you not decide alone. You need to decide together with your family. And here's the best place for your family. Here you have the best schools, you have the best environment for kids, you have the largest airport in the world that have a flight every day to Rio or Sao Paulo or everywhere you want to go, And we were very supported for the team from Lucia, from the Brazilian Chamber. We were very supportive from the guys from Georgia Chamber, also the Atlanta Chamber. And just so guys, in 2019, we were invited to go into the Barcelona together with them on the United States Pavilion for the I think was the I forget the name of the event, but they always is supporting us over here, And since we started in 2018 over here in the US, we won some big contracts also. And as I told you, we started in Brazil working with hospitality industry. And down in Brazil, we have like 1,000 hotels. And since we arrived here in the US, we have like 5,000 hotels already running our technology. And down in Brazil, we have like a big transportation system using our technology, like a Rio International Airport, like a Sao Paulo International Airport, Rio Subway and Sao Paulo Subway. And last year we won the New York Subway, and our technology is growing over here, and we are very happy. And my family is very happy to choose in Atlanta as not just our business headquarters, but our life headquarters also, I think it is this, guys. If you have some questions, it will be a pleasure to help you. All the time, I invite some friends of mine in Brazil, some entrepreneurs, to know better Atlanta, to know better about our ecosystem over here. And not just you, but your family will enjoy a lot the area.
Thank you, Rafael. And this is awesome to hear, even everything happening, you guys are getting contracts, continuing to grow. And I think this is a lot of what I think the Brazilian companies have. And there's a lot of innovation that can be brought and can be expanded, of course, taking, as Pedro said, into account the adaptations that are necessary, the homework that are necessary. So we still have 10 minutes. So I want to check if we have any questions from the Q&A or from, I don't know, from the YouTube. No. So, okay. So I have a question for you guys. And well, yes, go ahead, Glenn.
I had seen a question that cropped up in the chat that somebody asked in general about e-commerce, and if I can address that.
Please go ahead.
Georgia, like anywhere, and certainly through the past couple of years, every company now is an e-commerce company. But in general, for the person asking, Atlanta and Georgia is a great place for e-commerce companies. We're tremendous in logistics, which is what if you're a small startup e-commerce company, you need you need help getting your products to and from places. Well, there's no better place in the state of Georgia because of our logistics scale. Large giants like Amazon have significant presence here. E-commerce is electronic transactions and products and services. Well, that extends into fintech, and we're some of the best here. At the bottom line, the core of e-commerce is the infrastructure, the broadband capabilities that you have, and so Georgia has that in large quantities. We're one of the leading cities in Atlanta for broadband. So if you're an e-commerce company, you're looking to do it, or if you're looking for help developing those tools, then you can draw on resources like Georgia Tech. So as far as e-commerce is concerned, Georgia is a terrific place for it.
Sorry. We have also a question regarding, I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense regarding Rafael, can you share your visa? I don't know what does it mean. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, my visa is L1A visa, and now we are moving for the green card. Right, Pedro?
Correct. May I take that, Maria Luisa?
Okay.
Uh,
Now I got a question. Okay, now I got what it means. You know, like
Probably
this.
they want to know what type of visas are most used to on the expansion. The most used, usually, of course, each case is a case. Okay, guys, you should assess differently. But Rafael, for instance, is a L1A visa, which is usually the most commonly used for intracompany, what we call intracompany transferees. We had the pleasure to help Rafael, and we assist him on this, and it's L1A. Okay, if people want to go to the web and search, we do have plenty of material on L1A on our website. You can visit Drummond Advisors. There is a lot of information about L1A and other visas. Don't consider, there is no such a thing as a perfect visa for all cases, okay? There is no one size fits all. You need to consider and check your situation.
Yeah, and you are going to have visas like in the intra-company, but also if you're going directly doing investments here are going to be a different visa, right, Pedro? So
correct. Student, perhaps you are an employee of the company that being retained for the first time by that group, so L1A would not apply. There are other, well, in terms of US visas, you can go from A to Z, okay? So you have all types. So you need to make an assessment of your case, okay?
And if the people who wants to know a little bit more, together with the Brazilian Consulate General in Atlanta, we worked on a Guia do Empreendedor in the Southeast. So you also can find on this guide, is in Portuguese. So you can find also in this guide some, I would say, some of them said to me every time they have a question, they open the book, which makes me very proud because we work together, me, Lucia, and with the consulate, with Antonio. And we created this document where you can find a lot of information about the different states. Also, we are focusing in Georgia here, but you also have information about the rural regions of the Southeast, but also like, I would say day-to-day questions like what type of visa. So we have a few different visas that it's interesting. And we also have a lot of information about the markets, but also about logistics in terms of you doing exports. And I would say it's basic, probably. Some of you might look at it and say, okay, I don't need to know what is HS system, but we know there's a very diverse population that not necessarily know all these elements. So if we don't have any more questions, what I don't know if we can go maybe to our close remarks, right, with Jean. And thank you very much. I think it's I think Jean can go to the closure, right, Jean?
Excuse me, Maria Luisa.
Sorry, Lucia, go ahead.
We have 6 questions on the QA. And if we can just take a couple more minutes, because I think some of the questions are for Rafael.
You're on mute, Maria.
Oh yes, I think this is
No.
this is the 2021, you know.
Yeah, phrase, yes.
Phrase. You are on mute. This I always happens with my students. You know, they say, "Hey, teacher, you're on mute." It happens a lot. So, I think it's a very good question. Actually, Wagner brought regarding the funding for cases of Brazilian companies in Georgia. So, if anyone has an example or can talk a little bit more about that, I think it will be good.
May I take on that, Maria?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me go back to the definition of an ecosystem. We were chatting here. We are talking about innovation ecosystem, right? But after all, what's an ecosystem, right? How vague that definition is, and how can we define? There is a famous case on the Supreme Court that the justice said they were trying to define something. And they said, I can't define, but I know it when I see it, right? An ecosystem is just that it's hard to define, but we know it when we see it. And in Georgia, you have an ecosystem for innovation because it can combine several aspects that are important to innovate. And then let me take my opinion on this before I talk about funding. First aspect, the schools and universities, right? You're forming talented people. Second, a market. Okay, you can innovate and you start selling, you start running your business. Third, funding. Okay, you need to have some funding. You need to have capital at risk takers to invest in the companies. The most obvious innovation ecosystem is California and Silicon Valley, but that's not the only one. Georgia is now a hub for innovation and a hub for investments. You don't need to go to Silicon Valley first to get it to be invested by Silicon Valley firms. Of course, you don't need to be there, and you don't need to get invested only by Silicon Valley venture funds and etc. In Georgia, you do have investors. The segments vary, of course, but we do have, and we have clients that have been approached by Atlanta and Georgia, specifically in general, investors. There are some funding in the Georgia area. Yes. Okay.
You know, if I can add something, I think it's something that sometimes not everybody think about it, but I think it was a case of, I'm trying to remember, Cielo or other. You also have the chance to get investments on the accelerators phase or in the incubators phase. So it's something also that you guys might think about it, because there's a lot of programs in Georgia State, not only Georgia Tech, but I would say Georgia State and Georgia Tech, and they all have also, there's I would say startups hubs with investments, but also supporting, you maybe shaping up, the product, the service, and getting to the market with the support with some investors, with local investors, right?
Definitely. Yep.
So I want to go to a question that Tamer asked it, and Jean wants to answer about what the things that Brazilian firms should not do. Okay, what you should not do when you come in? What are the typical mistakes, Jean, that you have been seeing?
Can you hear me?
You're not on mute.
Yes, that's a wonderful thing. What you should not do is assume anything. Don't assume immigration, don't assume capital, don't assume political influence. Work with this chamber, work with the consulate, listen and learn. There's a lot. It's a different culture. We're different people. We're wonderful people, but don't assume anything. In investment banking, which is the world I live in, and immigration is the world I live in, too many people want to assume, well, taxes won't be different. Well, immigration won't be different. Well, business won't be different. It's all different. Don't assume anything. Ask for help.
And I think we can link this with the questions of to Rafael about the biggest challenging when you were coming in here in Atlanta. What you can share about this experience, and also that were shocking, maybe were really different, or maybe not so different at all.
Yes, depends. For me, I think the big challenge when you move for a country, it is the set up the family, because you are far from. I have 2 kids. I think that's the big challenge. And when I came here, I bring my mother-in-law for 3 months. I think that was our big challenge. And of course, example, in Brazil, our network's big. We are 2 calls for everyone that you need it. We need it, right? You just call and you can talk with the president for Google example. And of course, here the network is small. And because the environment helps you a lot, talk with the guy from the Georgia Chamber, from the team from Lucia, talk with the team from Pedro, to help you to do some presentations and some contacts, But for me, it's not with the business, but for me, it's set up the family, And as you see, I'm talking a lot about the family, because the family is very important, because happy wife, happy life, and that is very important for when you choose a place to set up your business.
Thanks very much, Rafael. And I would say happy wife, happy life, happy business, right? Because the business go through. If you are happy, the business also are going to be successful. And you can overcome the challenges, right?
Yes, and I have a lot of friends of mine, you know, I entrepreneur also. They moved to example for Silicon Valley, but the family they didn't like also Silicon Valley. And if the family don't like the place, you need to move. You know, you need to find somewhere that will help and support your family also. Okay.
We have I would say the last question, okay, Fernando, regarding your experience with the ATDC, and then we can close it up.
Okay, for me?
Yes, for you,
Okay,
Rafael.
yes, it was a big pleasure to participate of ATDC. We were the class of 2019, I think. And after we were too big to continue on the ATDC, you know, but ATDC, they support me with everything, you know. They support me to make some big introduction for big companies, example as Publix, as big retail companies, telecom companies, hospitality industry. They help us to set up our price list. They help us to introduce some employees also. You know, they just support us in everything that we needed. You know, it was a big pleasure, but you need to apply. You need to apply to be part of the Georgia Tech, you know. They need to know you. You need to do a big presentations to them to be a part of the ATDC, you know. But when we were too big here in the US, we were kicked out from the ATDC.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Hi, hey, this is Glenn. If I could just add on, because I know there's a broad audience. So for those that don't know, ATDC is the technology incubator for the state of Georgia. It's connected to Georgia Tech, but you don't have to have a connection to it. But it is the Advanced Technology Development Center, and it helps technology companies grow in Georgia. So just for those who don't know, that's what it is.
Thanks very much, Glenn. So to be fair because there was a question from John regarding, so now I don't know who would be, so this is really the last. So John was asking, given Atlanta, Georgia, and the links with Africa and Brazil business with the Southern Africa, if there's any possibilities for like a tripartite collaboration with African tech companies, especially in Southern Africa. I don't know. Who could be?
I'm unaware of any legal or regulatory incentive in that sense.
I'm working collaboratively with a good amount of businesses in South Africa. So I left my LinkedIn, my email, contact Lucia. I'm glad to help anyone that's trying to get into and get involved in the South African market, and got some pretty extensive relationships that can help people figure out how to feel their way in and accomplish what they're trying to do.
So Gene, take the hand and do the closing for us.
Man, love to. Thank you, everyone. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the participants in this today. Educational. Oh, this is, as the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce Southeast moves forward, all of you attendees know and understand, this is exactly what we're about. We're about helping each other in business. This is not your normal political lobbying type of chamber. This is a business chamber. We're here to help each other. We're here to share. You just got a snippet of the information that can be gathered by working with this chamber and the members of the chamber. So that's why each one of us had our LinkedIn shared with you today. Please reach out to us. Please join the chamber. That's how it operates. It's got a budget, believe it or not. We really do need to have members and need to have people that want to share their ideas and their thoughts. And great question about what are the things I should not do when thinking about bringing a business to America. That's exactly what we're here for. Reach out to me, reach out to the other members, reach out to Lucia. Thank you, attendees, for being here today. Thank you again, panelists. Great information. I just enjoy this so much, and thank you all for being a part of this, and look forward to the next time we all get to participate, educate, motivate, activate us all in doing what we need to do to grow this chamber. And with that, I turn it over to Lucia, who is our president. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Gene. Great words.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Well, I can't thank you enough Rafael, Chris, Grant, Glenn, Mariana, Pedro, and Maria Luisa, of course, for holding so well all the questions and getting everyone attentive to the message that we're trying to portray. And I'm just going to wrap it up with, please join us. We need members like you interested in learning, because that's all we have, is to inform, connect, and give you support. So thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Lucia.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you.